The digital clock on the bedside table glowed 6 a.m. Precise. Like everything in Chen Wei's life, or at least how he tried to keep it. At 71, retired from a career shaping Shanghai's relentless skyline as an architect, routine was his fortress against the formless expanse of time. He rose, the stiffness in his joints a familiar, unwelcome companion. He ignored it, just as he ignored the slight, persistent ache in his left hip, the legacy of a forgotten stumble years ago, now a subtle limp he refused to acknowledge. His apartment in Shuhui district was a testament to his former profession. Clean lines, minimalist furniture, everything in its designated place. Sunlight filtered through the morning haze hanging over the city, slanted across polished wood floors. On the wall, architectural sketches competed with a single framed photograph of his late wife, Meilin, her smile a ghost from 5 years past. He brewed Longjing tea in a delicate porcelain cup, the ritual precise, comforting. He scanned the headlines on his tablet, global tensions, local developments, the ceaseless hum of the city he helped build. Another day, identical to the last, stretching ahead like an empty blueprint. A notification chimed on his phone. Lina, his daughter. Baba, busy today, call you tonight? Eat well. Functional, efficient, like their relationship had become. He typed back, okay, take care. He loved her fiercely, but the words felt trapped behind a wall of unspoken things, a structure he himself had built over years of prioritizing blueprints over bedtime stories. A vague dissatisfaction settled in his chest, familiar as the morning stiffness. He pushed it down. He had a successful career to look back on, a comfortable retirement. What was there to be dissatisfied about? Later that morning, the post arrived. Bills, junk mail, and then something different. A plain white envelope, standard size, addressed to him in typed impersonal font. No return address. Curious, he slit it open. Inside, a single sheet of standard printer paper, also typed. No greeting, no signature. Just 4 stark points. 1. The body's betrayal. Ignoring physical whispers now leads to shouts later. Health neglected in the 70s becomes the cage of the 80s. 2. The empty chair. Relationships fade from lack of tending, not lack of love. Surface connections leave a hollow echo. 3. Squandered resources. Time, more precious than yuan, leaks away unnoticed. Passions buried gather dust, not interest. 4. The passive heart. Observing life is not living it. A spectator's seat offers no warmth against the coming chill. Below the points, a final chilling sentence. Don't become the ghost of regrets you haven't met yet. Act now. Chen Wei stared at the paper, a prickle of unease disturbing his composure. Who would send this? A prank? Some bizarre new form of advertising? It felt targeted, unnervingly specific. He crumpled it, aiming for the wastebasket, but hesitated. His hand faltered. He smoothed the paper out, folded it precisely, and slipped it into the drawer of his antique writing desk, beneath old blueprints and forgotten letters. Nonsense, of course. Still, the words lingered, sharp and unsettling, disrupting the careful order of his morning. The letter, tucked away but not forgotten, seemed to cast a subtle shadow over the following days. Chen Wei tried to dismiss it, focusing on his routine. The slow walk to the local market, the solitary meals, the hours spent reading or tidying his already immaculate apartment. Yet the words echoed. The body's betrayal. He found himself more aware of the ache in his hip, the slight breathlessness climbing the single flight of stairs to his floor because the elevator was briefly out of service. He told himself it was just age, normal, expected. Then came the stumble. Crossing a busy intersection near Jiaotong University, the usual cacophony of Shanghai traffic swirling around him, honking horns, bicycle bells, the rumble of buses, his head suddenly swam. The world tilted for a vertiginous second. His foot caught on an uneven paving stone, sending him lurching forward. He managed to catch himself on a lamp-post, heart hammering against his ribs, cheeks flushed with embarrassment and a sudden, sharp fear. Passers-by threw curious glances. A young woman asked if he was all right. He waved her away gruffly, muttering, "Fine, fine," regaining his composure with effort. But the incident shook him. It wasn't just a stumble. It was the dizziness. Physical whispers. The letter's phrase resonated with unnerving clarity. Reluctantly, Chen Wei made an appointment with Dr. Zhang, a calm, professional man in his 50s at a modern clinic nearby. The waiting room was bright, efficient, filled with the low murmur of patients. Dr. Zhang listened patiently, checked his blood pressure, asked questions about his diet, his sleep, the dizziness. He ordered a few tests. "Mr. Chen," he said finally, his tone gentle but firm, "at your age, these things cannot be ignored. Your blood pressure is a little high. The dizziness could be related, or it could be something else. We need to monitor it. And frankly, you need more regular gentle exercise. And perhaps think about your diet. Less salt, more vegetables. Small changes make a big difference." He handed Chen Wei a printout with dietary suggestions and recommended a daily walk, at least 30 minutes. Chen Wei took the papers, nodding stiffly. He hated feeling like a patient, like a collection of symptoms. But the fall, coupled with the doctor's calm certainty and the memory of the letter, chipped away at his resistance. That afternoon, feeling self-conscious, he put on comfortable shoes and headed towards Fuxing Park. The park was an oasis of green amidst the urban sprawl, alive with the energy of retirees. Elderly couples practiced ballroom dancing near the central pavilion. Groups huddled over intense games of xiangqi, Chinese chess, their faces etched with concentration. Others performed slow, graceful Tai Chi movements under the shade of plane trees. Chen Wei felt awkward, an outsider. He started walking along the perimeter path, his pace stiff, his limp perhaps more pronounced today. He tried some tentative stretches Dr. Zhang had suggested, feeling foolish. "Old Chen, didn't expect to see you here." A cheerful voice broke through his thoughts. It was Wang Jianmin, a fellow architect he'd known for decades, now also retired. Wang was rounder, more jovial than Chen Wei, his face crinkling into a smile. "Old Wang," Chen Wei acknowledged, slightly flustered. "Just—" getting some air. Wang Jianmin chuckled, falling into step beside him. Good. Doctor's orders for me too. Knees aren't what they used to be." He patted his leg. "But hey, better to keep moving than seize up, right? My son keeps telling me, 'Baba, join a Tai Chi group.' Maybe I will." Beats staring at the walls. They walked in companionable silence for a while, the shared rhythm of their steps a comfort. "Saw my son last weekend," Wang continued conversationally. "Took the grandkids to the Science and Technology Museum. Exhausting, but good. He's so busy, you know? We have to make the effort, old Chen, otherwise they forget about us old fossils." He laughed, but there was a wistful note underneath. "My wife, she's taken up calligraphy again. Says it calms her nerves, finds joy in it. Me, I'm thinking about model trains. Always wanted a set." Wang's easy chatter about health, family connections, and simple hobbies struck a chord. Relationships fade from lack of tending. Passions buried gather dust. The letter's phrases surfaced again. Compared to Wang's pragmatic acceptance and gentle efforts, Chen Wei felt his own inertia, his own emotional distance, keenly. He hadn't truly talked to Lina in weeks, not beyond logistics. And his own passions, buried under decades of work and routine. They parted ways near the park entrance, Wang clapping him on the shoulder. "Take care, old Chen. See you around." Chen Wei walked home slowly, the anonymous letter feeling less like nonsense and more like an uncomfortable mirror. The reflection lingered. That evening, Lina called as promised. Her voice was tired, rushed. She asked perfunctory questions about his day. He gave his usual brief answers. The conversation felt like navigating a familiar, shallow channel. He could hear the clatter of dishes in the background, the faint sound of his grandson demanding attention. Her life was full, demanding. He was a satellite orbiting at a distance. Suddenly, remembering Wang Jianmin's words and the letter's sting, Chen Wei broke the pattern. "Nana," he began, using her childhood nickname, something he rarely did anymore. How are things really? At work? You sounded stressed last time." There was a pause on the line. Lina sounded surprised. "Oh, well, you know, Baba, deadlines, a difficult client." She hesitated, then added, "It's okay, just busy." It wasn't much, but it was different. A flicker of genuine inquiry. He pressed gently. "The client, the one for the Pudong project?" He remembered her mentioning it vaguely before. "Yes, that one." She sighed. "They keep changing their minds." She spoke for a few more minutes about the project, a note of wariness entering her voice that she usually masked. He listened. Truly listened, not just waiting for his turn to speak or end the call. He didn't offer solutions. His architect days were behind him. Just listened. "That sounds frustrating," he said quietly when she finished. Another pause. Yes, it is." Her voice softened slightly. "Thanks for asking, Baba." When they hung up, the apartment felt a little less empty. It was a tiny crack in the wall between them, but it was a start. The empty chair. Maybe it didn't have to stay empty. He thought about Maylin, how easily she had bridged silences, how she would have known exactly what to say. The familiar ache of her absence mingled with a new, tentative hope. The third point of the letter, squandered resources, gnawed at him next. He reviewed his bank statements, not out of financial worry. He was comfortable, thanks to careful planning and Shanghai's property boom, but with a sense of hollowness. The numbers were fine, stable, but the resource he felt draining away was time. Days slipped into weeks, weeks into months, each marked by the same quiet routine. What was he doing with this precious finite resource? He opened the bottom drawer of his desk, the one containing the anonymous letter. Beneath it lay several old sketchbooks, filled with drawings from his youth and early career. Detailed renderings of Shikumen houses in vanishing alleyways, bold lines capturing the construction sites that birthed the city's modern icons, quick sketches of people on the Bund. He ran a hand over the faded pencil lines. He had loved drawing, the simple act of observing and translating the world onto paper. Work had consumed that passion, deadlines replacing the joy of creation. Wang Jianmin's casual mention of model trains, his wife's calligraphy, finding joy in simple things. Chen Wei looked at his own hands, still steady despite the encroaching stiffness. He thought of the Lujiazui skyline visible from his window, a view he rarely truly saw anymore. Passions buried gathered dust. A decision began to form, hesitant at first, then firming. The next day, he went out and bought a new sketchbook and a set of good-quality sketching pencils. It felt slightly absurd, indulgent even. But holding the smooth paper, the weight of the pencils sparked a flicker of something long dormant. He didn't draw anything immediately. Just having them felt like a statement against the passive drift of his days. He visited the Long Museum West Bund, not just glancing at the exhibits, but truly looking at the lines, the forms, the way light played on surfaces. He walked along the Huangpu River, watching the boats glide past, the familiar skyline etched against the sky. He didn't sketch yet, but he started seeing again, really seeing, for the first time in years. The inertia, that heavy cloak of why bother, felt fractionally lighter. He was still observing, perhaps, but the thought of participating, of creating, was no longer unthinkable. It was a quiet shift, internal, but profound. He was beginning to understand that resources weren't just about money. They were about the currency of time, and how one chose to spend it. The small changes began to weave themselves into the fabric of his days. The morning walk in Fuxing Park became less of a chore, more of a ritual. He started recognizing faces, exchanging nods with other regulars. He adhered mostly to Dr. Zhang's dietary advice, finding a quiet satisfaction in preparing simple, healthier meals. He even started sketching again, tentatively at first, a gnarled tree in the park, a corner of his apartment building, the view from his window. His lines were rusty, hesitant, but the act itself brought a surprising sense of focus, quieting the restless hum in his mind. He initiated more calls with Li Na, suggesting specific outings instead of waiting for her schedule to miraculously clear. He proposed a visit to the Shanghai Urban Planning Exhibition Center, a place they hadn't been to together since she was a teenager, thinking it might bridge his past profession with her present. The planning exhibition? Li Na sounded surprised, then thoughtful. Okay, Baba. How about next Saturday afternoon? Saturday arrived, bringing with it a confluence of his new efforts. He had a follow-up appointment with Dr. Zhang scheduled for the morning, and the planned outing with Li Na in the afternoon. As he woke, the old inertia whispered insidious comforts. You feel fine today. Skip the walk. The doctor will just say the same thing. Maybe reschedule with Li Na, it looks like it might rain. The spectre of future regret, manifesting as complacency. He recognized it now, this internal resistance to effort. He pushed back. He put on his walking shoes, the familiar ache in his hip a reminder of why this mattered. The air in the park was fresh after an overnight shower. He completed his circuit, breathing deeply. At the clinic, Dr. Zhang reviewed his latest readings. Better, Mr. Chen, much better. Blood pressure is down. Keep up the good work. Consistency is key. It wasn't a cure, but it was progress, earned through effort. A quiet victory. He met Li Na outside the exhibition center. The initial stiffness was still there, a habit hard to break, but he consciously steered the conversation. He didn't just ask about work. He asked about her son's school project, about the trip she was planning with her husband. As they walked through the exhibits, especially the massive scale model of the city, he found himself sharing anecdotes from his career, stories behind the buildings, things he hadn't spoken of in years. Not boasting, but sharing a part of himself. Lena listened, her usual preoccupied frown softening. "I never knew that about the Oriental Pearl Tower construction, Baba." Later, sitting by the window in a nearby cafe nursing cups of tea, she looked at him properly. "You seem different, Baba, calmer." He hesitated, then decided on vulnerability, another conscious choice. "I realized I haven't been paying enough attention to my health, to us." He gestured vaguely between them, to time. He pulled out his new sketchbook, flipping it open to a recent sketch of the Bund skyline. "I started drawing again." Lena looked at the sketch, then back at him, a slow, warm smile spreading across her face. "Baba, it's beautiful." In that moment, sharing his rediscovered passion, seeing the genuine warmth in his daughter's eyes, Chen Wei felt a profound sense of connection, a quiet joy that resonated deeper than any professional accolade ever had. He hadn't fixed everything. The distance hadn't vanished overnight, but he had chosen action over passivity, connection over isolation. He had faced the spectre and refused to let it define his remaining years. The afternoon sun streamed through the cafe window, illuminating the steam rising from their teacups, and for the first time in a long time, Chen Wei felt truly present, truly alive in the heart of the city he called home. Months slid by, marked not by monotonous repetition, but by a quiet evolution. Chen Wei's limp hadn't vanished, but it was managed better with regular exercise and Dr. Zhang's continued guidance. His sketches filled several pages of his book now. Street scenes, architectural details, portraits of fellow park-goers captured in quick lines. His small apartment felt warmer, less like a sterile container and more like a home, with sketches sometimes pinned to a corkboard, evidence of time actively spent. His conversations with Lena were more frequent, flowing more easily via WeChat messages filled with shared photos. His sketches, her son's drawings, and regular weekend calls that felt less like duty and more like genuine connection. They visited Mei Lin's favourite garden together, sharing memories without the old awkwardness. He even started tentatively teaching his grandson how to hold a pencil, how to see the shapes within objects. One crisp autumn evening, Chen Wei sat on his balcony, overlooking the glittering expanse of Shanghai. The air was clear, the neon glow softer from his vantage point. He held the anonymous letter, its creases softened